everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of On the Bluff. I'm your host, Christian Fowler. Joining me, as always, my co-host, Gabe Kuhn, our producer, Kenny Stubblefield. Fellas, how are we doing tonight?
How are you doing? That's what you need. We're not leading with us, brother. Congratulations to you and Anna Ruth, man. That's last week. Yeah, Kenny and I didn't want to ruin the surprise, I guess, even though you guys had posted 4 hours before we went live. But man, congrats. Seriously, happy for you guys.
Thank you. Yeah, when y'all told me y'all didn't talk about it, I was like, oh, I figured it was out in the open, but it's not. So me and Anna Ruth were in Savannah last weekend, and we got engaged on Tybee Island.
How do you feel, man? You feel like a new man? You feel like a...
I do. That's what we were both talking about it, after the dust settled and everything. And it was like, this feels pretty wild, very wild. And it was cool. It was a great time. It was just me and her. We got 4 or 5 days together, just us. And then this weekend, so we got home on Wednesday. Friday, we had an engagement party at her parents' house, and it was really cool time. Both of our, the first time both of our families have really hung out. So it was a great time.
That's badass, man.
Yeah.
Couldn't be happier for you.
It's cool. You boys have known me through a lot of different scenarios.
We've been kicking it with each other and doing, making content for a while through some big life events.
7 years.
Married and kid. You now engaged.
I have a teenager now.
Yeah.
Yes, that is true. That is true.
Yeah, 7
multiple different platforms we've been in together, man.
Yeah.
I'm just listen, bro. I'm really, not to get sentimental, Christian. I'm really proud of you, bro. I really am. I'm happy for you, man. Happy for you and Anna Ruth. I absolutely outpunted your coverage.
Outpunted? Did we say outpunted? I would listen. You know how I feel. I think she outkicked her coverage, man.
Look at Gabe coming to bat for me.
Yeah,
you're a hell of a guy, man. She's all right. You're great.
I'm great. Yeah. Well, thanks, fellas. I appreciate it. Definitely appreciate it. And we got 9 months, almost to the day.
Yeah, and by the way, isn't it
December 20th?
Isn't it kind of weird though to have a bunch of other dudes say you outkicked your coverage? Isn't that
you're just calling her hot?
You're calling her hot.
She's your
fiance. You really break down the meme. It's a little uncomfortable at times.
Yeah, it's flattering, but then at the same time, you're like, wait a second.
Chill out, dude. Relax.
Yeah. Well, what would you rather us say, Christian?
Fair. That's fair.
Congrats. That's all you need to
say. Hey, bro. Way to settle.
Yeah, good job. She's not a looker, but she'll make you happy.
That would be horrid. That would go over awfully. Yeah. Oh my
Christian,
God.
She's got a great personality, Christian.
Yeah. you guys would never kick it with us ever again.
No.
She would forbid it. She would forbid it.
That'd be it. God. Yeah, 9 months, December 20th. It's going to come very, very fast.
Do we have venue? What's up?
We're touring one on Thursday, so I have a better idea.
Which one?
It's in Oxford. I'm not sure the name of it.
Is it going to be in Oxford no matter what?
No. It's either going to be here at her church or in Oxford.
Okay, cool.
It's a new venue. It's really pretty.
All right, I'm going to let my I think I'm just going to take a 9-month layoff for my liver, and then that night I think Kenny and I are going to get down. We're going to get boogieing.
Let's go.
I need you to let it all hang out that night. I'm talking about full drenched, soaking wet, sweaty Gabe.
Okay, cool.
That's what I need.
All right, Gabe, let's make a pact. Me and you aren't going to cut any of our hair until after the wedding.
That's crazy.
Let's just go crazy.
I don't know about that, dude.
Yeah, I don't think I'm for that.
I don't know if I can handle that.
Gabe just came out of his caveman phase. We don't need.
Yeah, I was going to say I don't want to go right back into that.
No, you got to You got to wait till the next kid.
I don't want to go full Grizzly Adams. I don't want to.
Yeah. No, okay. All right. I rescind that.
Kenny couldn't do it anyway. Don't let him lie to you.
Yeah, Kenny, I don't know if you're built like that, brother.
He's way too way too well kept. He gets his haircut way too often to wait 9 months.
Frequently.
He would go insane.
Oh man. Congratulations though.
Thanks,
for real.
guys.
I'm excited.
Any notes from y'all's weekend before
nothing.
Not nothing. Kenny?
Well, I was in Fort Worth and I just got back, so I'm exhausted. Got very little sleep. Christian and I have done this trip numerous times.
It's tough. It's tough.
It is a.
Did you go alone?
No, me and Roman went together. Yeah,
and
did you share a room or did you solo it?
No. I have kind of gotten a little smarter than when me and you did it. We've got an Airbnb, a 2-bedroom apartment, and so he had one half of the apartment and I had the other half.
That's how the
safety for Roman. It's good for Roman. I don't want to scar the young man.
Was it?
You know what I'm saying?
Was it the last time we traveled together?
Kenny's the guy who goes to the coffee maker in the morning, just like boxers only.
Yeah, no boxers
Chest
and
out.
wife beater. No wife beater.
No socks. Wife beater? Oh shit!
I can tell you to a T what I've seen.
If they were sharing a hotel room, I'm imagining like Kenny just laying there in boxers and a wife beater, no socks, hanging loose. And then you have Roman in the corner, like trying to film his post game TikTok.
Yeah. I can't tell you how many times I have seen that exact picture happen.
Yeah, now he's got it. It's ingrained here.
Yeah,
like right in this area.
I'm glad y'all did that because the last time me and Kenny traveled together to Columbus, we did that, and it was a wonderful call.
Now,
yes,
I'm glad that you brought up Fort Worth and your trip there off the top, and how many times you've done it. Glad you brought that up first because it's beyond time to get the hell out of Fort Worth and bring the American Athletic Conference tournament somewhere else. And Tim Pernetti's looking at a bunch of different venues within the conference, Birmingham being one, Memphis for the men's tournament. I am of the opinion, when it comes to finding a hub or a destination, Memphis would be a decent one. When you get back to it. Fort Worth, you have the home team basically in North Texas.
Yeah,
3 minutes before the game, and there's like 15% of the damn stadium arena is filled.
I will say, pretty cool though. I like Fort Worth.
Sure,
Dickies isn't cool. Dickies Arena is nice.
No,
man.
I get it. I'm just saying, like from a fan interaction standpoint, you get nothing out of that.
No,
and it's been that way for a few years.
No, that's true. That's definitely true. But I enjoyed last time we went. Me and Kenny took plenty of time, walked around the city, ate at some good spots. It's a cool place. It's a cool place.
I mean, I rock with that.
Yes, but I understand your point as well. Like, there's not people coming out locally for that, so there's nobody there. I mean,
you want butts in the seats, and you're not getting that in Fort Worth, and you just keep doing the same thing over and over and over again.
Correct.
Well, let me ask you. You mentioned the Memphis is one of the 4 finalists. I think Tim Pernetti talked about that in availability prior to the championship game. And he said Memphis is one of the finalists for the men's side of the tournament. Basically, the FedEx Forum would be available just for that one weekend or for that 1 week that it would be going on. They can't book 2 weeks for the women's and men's tournament.
Yeah.
Do you think that changes the calculus? I think for you think the FedEx Forum's the spot for the men's tournament, and what does the AAC do for the women's tournament?
I don't know. I mean, figure it out as you go. But I think the men's tournament being in Memphis, I think that's a really good option.
Yeah, as far as
a really good option, it's your best brand too.
Yeah, as far as what Gabe's talking about, like butts in the seats, it's 100% makes the most sense. But
they got Tampa, Wichita, Birmingham, and Memphis. Tampa, Wichita, Birmingham's for both tournaments. Memphis would just be the men's tournament because of the scheduling conflicts with the Grizzlies.
Don't do Wichita. I mean, Wichita would be good for fan show out, but like Wichita.
No, I mean, I would imagine Memphis is going to get eliminated early just because they probably want a hub for both tournaments.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think it would just make a whole lot of sense. It's your premier basketball program. It's the one that makes national noise. I guess I could see Birmingham too. UAB has a hunger to go watch the American Athletic Conference tournament, and that's a good brand within the conference for basketball.
I mean, the other option would be go look at the Lander Center in Olive Branch or in South Haven, right? Like, it's right down the street, not too far.
Yeah,
why not?
I don't. It doesn't have the same. Part of the reason you would go Memphis, you have Beale Street right there. You have downtown.
You have to have
the heart of the downtown somewhere.
You have to have an attractive area.
I mean, the more I'm talking about it, like Birmingham's probably the place they'll settle on, which would make the most sense for me.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Again, like I just think
What arena is in Birmingham? Because it's not going to be Bartow. What arena do they have that would fit a capacity?
They have a convention center of some sort right down there. Remember when I stayed there for the Birmingham Bowl? They have a big sort of convention center arena area.
I went
across from a hotel we stayed at, and I forget. I went to
an AAU tournament there, so I know exactly what you're talking about. But I can't remember the name of it. All right, boys. Well, speaking of conference tournament, Memphis just wrapped it up, won it. Regular season champs, tournament champs, 29-5, the best season in the Penny Hardaway era. How are we feeling before we talk NCAA tournament? Because obviously we'll get there, but how are we feeling just kind of about the season as a whole? Double champs, 29-5. How do we feel about that?
Success. Like, just check all the boxes.
All the way around,
man. Like, I'm not saying they're playing with house money going into the tournament, but part of me feels that way. I'd be lying to you if I didn't say that. You won newcomer of the year, player of the year, coach of the year, two championships, one for the regular season, one for the tournament. 29-5, end up getting a 5 seed. Like, man, I don't know if it could have gotten much better. Let's be honest. Like, I feel a good sense of pride about my university being able to do that. But also, I feel like this year showed us what is possible heading into the future with sort of the changes they made and everything else. So, listen, if you're asking me how I feel, and now that we're done with the regular season and the tournament, I feel phenomenal about where this program is at and where they're headed.
Yeah, I would say one of the biggest things for me is I remember, speaking of the last time me and Kenny traveled together, was Kendrick Davis, DeAndre. What was that, 22, 23?
Yep.
And when we were leaving that press conference after the loss to FAU, me and Kenny were like, Penny has figured it out as far as blueprint-wise. Like, he has the blueprint to have a successful program. Kind of had a detour year last year with what he tried to do, but he's gotten back to more of what he did in 22, 23. And it has, to me at least, it feels like now like he's got to have it down pat for what his formula for success is. It's not, bringing in these big name players. It's what he did in 22, 23. It's what he did this year. It's bringing in guys that can fit the system, that are productive, and they don't have to be the biggest names. And it just feels like he's really settled in, figured it out. It's the most comfortable that we've seen him. And that coincides with all the success that we've talked about, whether it's team accolades or individual player accolades, or even himself winning Coach of the Year, the highest seed that Memphis has gotten under Penny Hardaway as a 5 seed. To me, it just has to make you feel like, okay, 2 out of the last 3 years, he's really nailed it. He should really know what's going on, what's expected, and what he has to do to be successful going forward.
Yeah, no, I feel the same way. You look at the success of this season, and you just say it's kind of a realization of what all of us who are Memphis fans. Let's be frank about that. We're fans of this program. We're fans of the university, but also in terms of on the media side, where we talk about this stuff, and it's what we've wanted for years and years under Penny Hardaway, is this kind of culmination of the native son of Memphis coming back and getting this university's basketball program back to where it needs to be.
No better story.
And there's no better story. And the fact that it happened after such a down year last year, the fact that it was like the story was written prior to this tournament anyway, like 365 days before since the Tigers had dropped that game against Wichita State in last year's quarterfinal matchup. It was just such a defeated, like, the press conference was so defeated, and like the way we talked about it, we didn't know really what the direction was for the program. Where is this program going? And then everything that happens this year, and then 365 days later, they match up against Wichita State again in the quarterfinals. And it was like this, when they beat them in that game, it was just like this, okay, everything has been righted again. Like, everything is back to where it should be. And so you've got to have a lot of hope for the future, I think, as even no matter what happens this weekend in this tournament, in the NCAA tournament, there's a lot of hope for the future for Memphis basketball because of what we've seen Penny Hardaway and the Tigers do.
What's interesting is I was doing Tigers Live over the weekend after the Tulane win with Francis Carlotto. Great, by the way, post-game show. Make sure you check it out on the YouTube channel, and it goes live after every single Tiger game. But like we got a lot of comments from fans basically saying like compared to last year's team, this team bought in. And I had an interesting point about last year's team in the fact that like I don't know how much there was to buy into last year. Like the non-negotiables clearly weren't there. Penny was letting things slide, letting people off the team, back on the team, Jordan Brown in particular. You had a bunch of guys that didn't really fit the culture you were trying to put forth. So what was the culture at that point? You had a bunch of offensively inclined players that you're trying to force a square peg into a round hole, make a play defense. So like I got a lot of that, and like my only response to that was there a whole bunch to buy into? Did Penny set the program up culture-wise for success last year? I don't think he did. This year, the change is so 180. It's like it blows my mind how much has happened and how much was learned from that nastiness 7 and 8 to end last year. So like I found that to be kind of interesting when I was doing the post-game show. Just a million people saying, well, this team bought in. And I said, well, you know, I think that there was a change in Penny Hardaway this offseason that made it easier to buy in for this team.
Yeah. Yeah. No
Can I
doubt.
tell you what I think the change was? Can I tell you
Go ahead.
I think the change was he bought in.
Right.
He bought in to what the non-negotiables
Yeah,
were.
to building a program, building
a culture,
right.
building a program. How many times have we heard him over the years, Gabe and Christian, talk about Kelvin Sampson and Houston, right? Like Kelvin's like as much as there's like a rivalry on the court between the two of them, there's clearly a level of respect between the two, especially coming from Penny. Like he looks at Houston as this is what I want my program to look like. And I want us to be, and why wouldn't you? Houston is phenomenal every single year. It's the same thing every single year. They're consistent. And I think that like you talked about, Christian, you said, you know, we were walking out after the FAU loss in Columbus in the NCAA tournament in 2022-23 and said, he's got the blueprint now. Well, he deviated in 21-22, or I mean, at 23-24, right? He deviated, caught up by the shiny toys of all these different guys. And this year he said, no, man, let me get back to what I know is the culture, what we want this program to look like. He went in and he did it, and success has happened again. And so I think your point is extremely valid. Like what did the players have to buy into? I think part of it is that Penny hadn't necessarily completely bought into it, and he did this year.
I think in the changing tide of like just college athletics with the transfer portal and the freedom of movement and how many players have been in and out of this program, I think Penny got caught up for a couple of years, and it worked with Kendrick and DeAndre. Don't get it twisted with all the transfer portal additions, but he got caught up in team building, right? Like I'm building a team for this season. We'll worry about next season. I think the blueprint he put out this year is I have a program that I'm basing certain things off of. We're going to get a defensive identity. We're going to bring in guys that we trust. We're going to bring in absolute stud and PJ Haggerty. We're going to make some things happen that way. And I think that this year was the first year where I can really look at it and say, he didn't let drama derail the season. He clearly had non-negotiables about what was going on off the floor. And I think you see that even with like the role players, right? Like I brought up Baraka Okojie, for example. This guy didn't come here to ride the pine, brother.
And this is before he started. This is before the finals.
Like Baraka Okojie, he didn't come here to ride the pine, man. He was an 8-point scorer at George Mason. A lot of teams and programs around the country wanted the guy. I haven't heard word one about that dude complaining. Where in years past, guys, he gave pity minutes because he didn't want to hear them bitch off the floor. We can call a spade a spade. So, like, it's a different feel completely, and it feels like a living, breathing program now, as opposed to just teams coming in, you know, year after year after year, having to completely flip the roster every year. It feels like there's some staying power to what's been built this year. And even after that 22-23 season with Kendrick DeAndre, I wasn't quite at the same level y'all were about, like, he has really found it. I didn't quite believe that at that time, but now I really am bought into Yeah, I think he's found exactly his niche and what he wants to do going forward.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well let's switch gears then and talk about the NCAA tournament, because both of you kind of hit on something that I want to talk about now. Gabe said they're kind of playing with house money. Kenny said, regardless of what happens the rest of the way. I don't know if I feel the same way about that.
And by the way, I'm not saying that I truly believe they're playing with house money. Yeah. I want them to win a damn game.
Right.
And I'll be highly disappointed if Colorado State wins.
And I'm not truly saying regardless of what happens, right? Like I came into this year with 2 goals for this Tigers team, and that's for them to win the regular season conference and then to go into the tournament not having to worry about their seeding. Yes. They've done those 2 things. Yes. So to me, and maybe my vision is a little bit too low, but maybe to me it's been a successful year.
Well, the expectations after last year were just what you're talking about. Let's just get back to the tournament, brother. And not have to worry about being on the bubble consistently. But now that we've seen this team go 29-5, win 2 titles in the American, it's like expectations change, and I get that.
Let's go get some more, baby. And Penny said it.
If I'm just being honest about the expectations I came into this season with, I think they have already gotten at least to the line of what I thought was possible and needed, at least.
But with what we know now, I want to ask you guys something.
Sure.
Is one win in the tournament a success? Because I genuinely, I don't think so. I think with the way that you went about the year, with the amount of talent that you have, with the amount of success that you've had, I don't think winning one tournament game and being in the round of 32 is a truly successful season. I still think even more so than the 22-23 season, we'll look back and go, what could have been, because of how good they were and how well they competed against some of the top teams in the country. And I don't think that's an unfair judgment. I think this team should have bare minimum Sweet 16 aspirations. And I know that, it's a tough draw with Colorado State. They're probably the best 12 seed. They've had a heck of a winning streak. They've played really well down the stretch in the season. They're favored by 3.5 points in this game. But, to me, none of that. Tyrese Hunter could potentially be out for the game. To me, none of that matters. This should be a Sweet 16 level team with what they showed both in the non-conference and the conference, the overall record, the championships, all the accolades. They need to be a Sweet 16 team.
Yeah, I think I'd be disappointed if they got knocked out in the first or second round. But at the same time, I just look at all the things that they're dealing with when it comes to the draw they got. It is, I don't know if you'd have any reason to be oh, this season was a failure. They didn't make it to the Sweet 16 for the first time since 2009. I understand how well they've played, but we're talking about clearly the toughest region. The 8-9 games, UConn and Oklahoma, no one hotter than Oklahoma in the country. Jeremiah Fears, if you haven't watched him play, he's an absolute stud. UConn's the 2-time defending national champion. Maryland is the hardest 4 seed in the bracket right now. Derek Queen and Jacoby Gillespie can hoop, brother. Derek Queen's going to be, a top 5 pick? Probably.
Yeah.
In all likelihood. That guy can score at all 3 levels, leads them in scoring at 19 points per game as a center. You just keep going down the bracket. And hell, the 1 seed, Florida, no one wants to see that team right now. They just won the SEC. They're the only team in the SEC. This is a wild stat. Only team in the SEC without a losing streak, losing 2 straight games this entire season. So, and you don't have Tyrese Hunter, and you don't have the guy that was your 2-deep point guard, Dante Harris. Maybe he'll come back. Penny basically said Dante's in a better spot than Tyrese. Tyrese says he wants to give it a go, but based on what I'm hearing behind the scenes, it doesn't sound like it's real for him to actually give it a go. So, look, Penny Hardaway said he wanted to get to the Sweet 16, and he's not going to view it as a success unless they do. I guess I'll take his word on that, but I'm not going to be – I don't think I'm going to grade as hard as normal people, considering all the things that we know to be true about the draw that they have in the NCAA tournament. It's kind of funny, though. I in no way thought they were going to get 5 seed. I thought 6 was the peak. They get a 5 seed, and I'm sitting here, and I look at the draw, and I go, not like this. Why? Like, damn, man. Like, you give us that aspirational seed, the one that everyone in Memphis wanted to see this team get to. And you look around, you're like, damn, I didn't want all this.
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, if they were playing, if they won that first round game and they were playing like an A&M, who's a 4 seed in the South, Arizona, Purdue, maybe Purdue, but yeah, Maryland's a tough draw if they get past Colorado State, and Colorado State's a tough draw. But let's not forget, Memphis is a dang good team. That UConn team that we're talking about, that's an 8 seed. Memphis beat them. Michigan State, who's a 2 seed, Memphis beat them. Clemson, who's a 5 seed, another 5 seed, Memphis beat them. Ole Miss, who's a 6 seed, Memphis beat them. So, like, I feel like a lot of people are going into the tournament right now, at least from a national perspective, not only with Memphis being a dog against Colorado State, but I heard John Rothstein pick Colorado State to win this game. I've heard multiple other analysts pick Colorado State to win this game, and it's like, I think people are kind of forgetting what this team is capable of and what they've done.
I think people are buying into the Tyrese Hunter injury
Fair.
A lot. I will say this, though. I've looked at the matchup. I don't think Tyrese's injury is all that important to the matchup against Colorado State. He's important in any matchup they play. He's one of their best players. He's their on-ball guy. He's a distributor. He can shoot a 3, knock down a 3 at a 40% clip this year. There's a lot of reasons that he is just important to every matchup they play. But in the matchup against Colorado State, I don't know if that injury is going to affect them. Once they play Maryland or Florida, sure. Yeah, that means a whole lot. But Colorado State doesn't have a guy over 6'8". And I just watched Musa Cisse and Dane Danger eat Yaxel Lindeborg
and just straight time.
And make the all-tournament team for the AAC and play that high-low game. If you don't have a guy over 6'8" and you're dealing with Musa Cisse and Dane Danger playing the high-low game, what the hell are you going to do?
What the hell are you going to do?
I don't know. I think they're peaking at the right time, playing like the Bash brothers. And I like them against Colorado State. Anything beyond that, without Tyrese Hunter, concerned. But I think people are not looking at the nitty-gritty of the details when it comes to the Colorado State-Memphis matchup. And that has led to Vegas putting the line the way they have. I'm not that worried about Colorado State compared to what they would see after that.
Well, and a low-key silver lining for it is that, and listen, Tyrese Hunter is the unmatched leader on this team in the locker room, on the floor. He is the guy that gets these guys rolling. He's on the bench. He's still coaching. He's jumping up and down. Penny had to tell him to sit the F down during the game because of his foot. Like, he was just going crazy. But what it did do, and I think you saw this in the UAB game, and listen, I recognize that having Baraka in the starting lineup severely limits their offensive abilities, right? Like, Baraka is not the offensive threat at all that Tyrese is. Outside of the fact that Baraka is a willing passer, he's a willing distributor. He enjoys assists as much as he does anything else. I will say one of the things that I do think that could be a potential win for the Tigers in this is that Baraka's bigger. He's a bigger guard. He guards very physically. And when you got a guy who's 6'6" and Neek
Clifford,
what's his name again?
Clifford.
Thank you. Almost said Foster again. Neek Clifford, who is a big guard. You need to be able to match size for size, speed for speed, power for power.
That's the key. That's the key. You take him away, you win this game. I mean, he's their leading scorer, rebounder, and assist. Yeah.
He's the Yaxel of Colorado State, right?
19 points per game, almost 10 rebounds per game, 4 assists per game. Yeah. You neutralize him in any way, whether that's slow his scoring down or keep him off the boards, because, like I said, he is their leading rebounder at 6'6". Then you got a really good shot in this game. Memphis should dominate the glass. They should be able to block shots in this game.
Should dominate the paint. The paint should be Memphis's the entire game.
No, it absolutely should. And I think that's exactly what Gabe is pointing to. Like, yes, Tyrese Hunter is extremely important, but this game should be won down low in the paint. Dane Danger should have 25 points.
I think if it was Tyrese Hunter or not, I think they're winning this game directly by using their size and pushing them around. Yeah. That's how I think they win the game. Tyrese Hunter or no Tyrese Hunter.
Yeah.
But I will say, Baraka, what did you think about him in the UAB game just generally? I like him as a player. He provides a lot of good things. There's one thing, though, that is just apparent. He can't put the ball in the bucket. He doesn't even try most of the time. So that's a limiter as you get deeper into a tournament, man. Like, because how do you win tough games in the NCAA tournament, especially in crunch time? You need shot creators, and you lost probably your best on ball creator outside of PJ Haggerty and Tyrese Hunter.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I think you put a lot on PJ Haggerty's shoulders, obviously, but you need Colby Rogers and PJ Carter to hit shots.
They have to. Those two
have to show up.
That's the biggest thing. That because Baraka is not a great offensive player. He took one shot in the UAB game.
He made it.
He made it.
And he made it. First shot of the game, baby.
But I was like, oh. He took one shot in 28 minutes. So you have to find a way.
That's crazy, dude. The guy who's handling the ball the most probably has the highest use. Well, PJ has the highest usage rate, but the guy that's handling the ball most times up the floor in 28 minutes took one shot.
Yeah. So you need Baraka to be good defensively.
Yeah. I'll say this: Baraka's defense is what stole the day for me in terms of his play on the court. He created so much chaos in that UAB game.
Yeah, that's what he has. That's what he has to do in this game.
And that's what he literally needs to be. He reminds me a lot of Patrick Beverly in the way that he plays the ball.
Be a gnat, be a piss.
Just be an absolute dog. He stood Yaxel up 3 times on switches, like that. And what I mean by y'all know what I mean by stood up. Yaxel he switched onto Yaxel. Yaxel took him, faced him and took him to the basket, and Baraka stood him up, made him stop his move. That is. I mean, yes. Are there limitations offensively? Absolutely. Is Tyrese Hunter a better offensive player? Yes. I don't think Baraka hurt them offensively. I think he helped them. I think he created so much chaos on defense that I think that's something that you have to game plan for. Like, you have to game plan for the chaos that he creates on defense.
Yeah.
And so I'm not as down on this as everybody else is, because yes, I recognize his limitations offensively, but it's the chaos that I just go, okay, there's something to this. There's something that he can add. And it just means, like you said, Christian, PJ and Colby have to be on point. Right. They have to be. You cannot have them go offers again at all.
And I'll say this, Nick Jourdain probably putting up a couple more threes and knocking them down would be nice too.
Yeah.
Give it a little bit on the offensive end.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You have to have PJ and Dane do their thing, and then you have to have some subsidized offense from those 3 guys that we just mentioned, in PJ, Colby, and Nick Jourdain.
What would be nice too, and Penny hinted that this is a possibility. Dante Harris coming back. I know it would be kind of strange because it's like he joined this team mid-season, hadn't played a whole bunch, had the ankle injuries, been out for a while, and he would be inserted as your starting point guard. Like, I know that's just weird, but I think that's the type of guy that can give you sort of the best of both worlds when it comes to Baraka and Tyrese.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. All right, boys, let's take a quick break, and we will be back on the other side with the Hot 3.
Man, I can really write a book about Dane Danger. He reminds me of a former Grizzlies player, Zach Randolph, with his footwork. When I see those two, man, you have 2 different ways now that the Tigers can find a way to score, between Haggerty with his self-creation and Danger being able to be a post threat. It has alleviated a lot of pressure from earlier this season, which you had the Tigers being so guard-centric on scoring. And now when you've established Danger, this allows different avenues and scoring. Basketball is typically played inside out, and that's what the Tigers are pretty much doing now, especially when you have Dane Danger there. I understand that the Tigers enjoy pace and like playing it fast, but in a half-court setting, Dane Danger is the answer.
Tune in to Tigers Live with Francis Carlotta, live after every Memphis Tiger basketball game on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel.
We got to be better in situational basketball if we're going to have any realistic chance of winning a playoff series. Fuck. We got to get to the playoffs. And we keep acting like, well, they're a playoff team. Shit, we know we're not. I don't see no X next to our name. I don't see no Y next to our name that says that you're in the playoffs. You're not in the playoffs yet. There is nothing that says that you won't be a play-in situation, play-in team. You cannot allow these games to slip away. You can't keep kicking the can down the road to think that this is going to get better.
Now you're getting down to, nuts and guts, as Elliot Perry would say. Your margin for error is slimmer, and your attention to detail has to be at an all-time high.
Let me tell you what the other thing is. Your players have to play.
Tune in to the Night Court Podcast with your hosts, Rob Fisher and Brevin Knight, on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel. Welcome back, boys. It is time for the hot three. Are you guys ready to go?
Of course.
We've been talking about NCAA tournament for a little bit, and I think Memphis getting a 5 seed was, I think, pretty surprising to everybody, right? Like based on all the numbers and everything that was being talked about. I came in fully expecting an 8 seed. I just thought it was going to happen. I thought it'd be ridiculous, but I thought it would happen. They get a 5 and everybody reacted the same way. Like, holy crap. Like, where did that come from? So, Gabe, can we officially say the predictive metrics were just totally off? Like,
I just think I think it's a good sign for teams like Memphis who schedule well in the out of conference. They actually gave them props for scheduling well and winning games instead of looking at the predictive metrics for everything for seed line. I thought it was just a good sign for teams like Memphis. But can I be honest though? First, it was the South region they opened up with, right? And the first 8 seed was Louisville, and I go, oh shit, Memphis is gonna be a damn 10 seed.
13. They might be a 13.
Oh god. Oh god!
I thought the same.
I saw that Louisville, they got so underseeded. I was worried at that point. Wild. Every 8 seed that passed that they announced, I was holding my breath. I'm like, this is gonna be Memphis. It's gonna be the Tigers.
Yeah, that was wild. But there are some. The NCAA tournament bracket as a whole has been, obviously every year there's question marks about where people were seated, how they were seated, who's in, who's out. Is North Carolina the single greatest travesty of getting into this tournament this year? Is this not the craziest one that we've seen?
It's egregious, guys. It's bad. It's so bad. And the problem I have, even more so than the things I'll mention after, is the way they tried to rationalize it. Like, they talked to committee members on the CBS Sports selection show, and they talked about their Quad 2 resume. Yeah, they're undefeated in the Quad 2. When has Quad 2 ever had any bearing?
What are we talking about?
By the way, they have a Quad 3 loss.
And they're 1-12 in the Quad 1.
And they're 1-12. They've won 1 of 13 opportunities in the Quad 1. Whenever they play good teams, they get smacked around. And also, I hand up, I thought after the way they lost to Duke over the weekend, I thought it should have been just open and shut, kick them the hell out, send them to the NIT. Get them to. Did you see how that ended, guys? That was insane. They're down by 1 against Duke without Cooper Flagg and Malik Brown. They missed the first free throw, and then they have a lane violation on the second one. That's clearly a team that's not ready to win big games. Clearly a team that doesn't have the discipline to win big games. It just hasn't been managed well for them. And, I looked at Bracket Matrix. They do 111 brackets, and they, decide who's in, who's out, and, put them all together, see what they look like. West Virginia got absolutely hosed. They were in 111 of 111 brackets. I thought Indiana compared to North Carolina, I'm not going to make a case for Indiana. Compared to North Carolina, they got hosed. They were in 90 of 111 brackets. North Carolina, did you see the final number of brackets they were involved in when it came to the bracket matrix, the 111 brackets that they keep up with?
Blow my mind here.
27 of 111 brackets. And why it feels especially dirty, I talked about the rationalization. Bubba Cunningham, their athletic director, is the chairman of the selection committee, and he has the nerve, when they ask him on the broadcast, about what was the rationalization behind your program, North Carolina, getting in. He said, I wasn't involved in the proceedings, in the conversation that got North Carolina in.
And it
just feels dirty all around, gross.
Let's just say he wasn't in the room. Let's say he left the room when they talked about it. There's still no way that him being there and him being the committee chair did not affect the decision whatsoever. Because can't you just see those guys in there talking about it and being like, let's blow his mind when he walks back in. Like, he's going to be so fired up when we tell him and he walks back in. And they're like, yeah, after deliberation,
blow his mind.
After deliberation, I've decided North Carolina's going to be in. And you know, that dude owes them, Benny owes them for the rest of his life because they didn't deserve to be in whatsoever.
Oh,
North
that's so
Carolina
funny,
beat two teams in the field. One of them was UCLA. Fine, good win. You get credit, even though they're a 7 seed, not a very good 7 seed. The other one, 16 seed American. They beat American, the university. And like, I just look at like West Virginia, for example. They went on the road against Kansas and won. They beat Iowa State. They, had a really damn good year in a good conference compared to the ACC. They won 19 games in that conference. And then you look at Indiana. Indiana down the stretch of the season, you remember? They went on the road against Michigan State when Michigan State was on that big-ass win streak, and they beat them at their place. And then they come back home, play Purdue, who was 13 in the country at the time. They beat them. Like, you just look at the resume factor here. It's not even close. North Carolina should have been left out, and there shouldn't have even been a discussion.
You think San Diego? I mean, I think San Diego State's going to mop the floor.
I don't know about that. See, this is the problem that I have. Once you're in the tournament, anything can happen. That's my problem. I wouldn't be surprised if North Carolina makes a run out of Dayton, like just for the sake of it. You know,
well, then is it justified? Is it justified then?
No,
if they make a run?
No, it's not justified.
No, it's still not. No. I heard John Rothstein talking about this earlier too. He was talking about VCU. I think maybe in 2011 when Shaka Smart was there, and was like, did not think they should have made it at all. And I can't remember if they went to the Final Four or the Elite Eight.
That was Final Four year for them.
Final Four, yeah, they went deep, and he was like, they shouldn't have been in. But everything once you're in, that stuff doesn't matter anymore, and it doesn't. Like, but it's.
I think Dana Altman had a similar one at UCLA.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Oregon. Why am I saying UCLA? Oregon.
It doesn't. What you did in the regular season at that point holds no bearing, but it doesn't justify it. It doesn't justify that West Virginia is the most egregious omission from the tournament, at least that I can remember or think of off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Especially for the team that they were left off for. If they were left off for a team that made sense, you could rationalize it. But North Carolina, if their name was anything else,
That's what I'm saying. If you had any other name across your chest on those jerseys, they're not coming close.
No.
I think it was on Thursday night. Lenardi dropped a bracket, one of his bracketology things that said. Hi.
That's a
try to be sneaky though. I respect it.
She was trying.
In almost 120 episodes, that is the first time that has
happened.
Right. He said he had North Carolina last 4 in, and he had Texas in the first 4 out. Do you think if Texas hadn't made it, that it would have been as egregious as West Virginia not making it? Because I look at Texas and I say Texas is really, really good. Now they're in one of those play-in games, but I was stunned by that. I was like, how do you like? I've seen Texas play numerous times. They have a very good team.
Trey Johnson,
and yet
he's one I'm excited to watch play.
Lottery pick.
Like, he's going to be that guy. He's a freshman. He's a phenomenal player. I don't know, man. I think UNC is just. I agree with you guys. I think it is about the name on the jersey, and that's really it.
The name on the jersey.
Hey, do you think the exhibition win over the Memphis Tigers meant something? I think that got added to the resume. Bubba Cunningham sitting there. We beat Memphis, and they're on 5 seed. Beat them in an exhibition.
They raised a bunch of money for St. Jude.
We're good people. You should let us in.
Oh God. Oh man. All right. Let's move on. Let's get to some NFL football. Some big news dropped this week. it looks like the Bengals are going all in, boys. They just signed their 2 big play receivers. They just got them back. Jamar Chase and T. Higgins reached long-term deals. Obviously, with Joe Burrow as their starting quarterback, they needed to sign those guys, and they got them. They've got his top 2 targets. What are your guys' thoughts on Jamar Chase and T. Higgins?
I think it's absolutely necessary. They have to. I mean, we saw this team miss the playoffs last year with those guys. So you take away Jamar was never going anywhere. That was never a question. But if they didn't franchise T, or they didn't extend T, or they let him walk in free agency or whatever, this offense wouldn't be nearly even to the level that it was last year. And the defense is probably going to be the same, if not potentially worse, if they end up trading Trey Hendrickson. They're going to be fun to watch. I mean, it's going to be a shootout team. It's going to be just like last year. And putting all that weight on Jamar and Joe, I think, wouldn't have worked nearly as efficiently as it did this past year. Yes, they only won 9 games. No, they didn't make the playoffs. But it wasn't the offense's fault. It wasn't Joe and T and Jamar's fault that it didn't work. $40 million a year for Jamar. That's the Bengals' fault. They could have extended him last year for probably 33 to 35 around the Justin Jefferson, CD Lamb watermarks that were set last year. They didn't do that. They drug it out. Now they're paying him $40 million a year. I think it's an extra 20 or 25 over the length of the contract, and T with a big deal as well. So I think the only thing that you can really knock, or a couple things that you can really knock, they didn't do it earlier, is on the Bengals. And then with T, there is a little bit of risk there because he hasn't stayed healthy throughout his career. He's pretty much good to miss a handful of games every season. What will the case be under a long-term contract? Who knows? We know that there's politics involved, that there's things involved, and sometimes you might sit if you're not on a long-term deal, if you're on a franchise tag. So we'll see how that all plays out. But I think overall, when you have 3 players of that caliber, and your offense is as good as it is, and regardless of the defense, you have a window because of who your quarterback is. You have to take advantage of it. The Bengals have been notorious for holding back money. They are probably like the mark in the NFL for the team that spends the least amount of money and is unwilling to sign guys to big long-term contracts. And they've let a lot of players walk over the last several years, over the course of their history. But they did what they needed to do. They did what they should do, and they brought those guys back. And you can say at what cost and what else are they going to be able to sign, but this is a necessity. Like, this had to happen.
One of my most frustrating takeaways is what you already mentioned. If they just did this last year, you're in a way better position. The cap's going to go up every year. It's at $279.2 million. Like, you just why wouldn't you just do this a year ago? Like, it's giving a lot of Cowboys vibes.
It is.
Like,
I was about to say the same thing.
Stop waiting and sign the guys. If you know you can't live without them, then just sign them now for cheaper. Those contracts are going to age better. So that's where I do fault them. Where I don't fault them is just getting it done. And you have to know the history of that franchise. Like, generally speaking, they're not a good franchise, and they don't have a big market. They don't have the guys out there on the free agent market that are willing to sign to go to Cincinnati. They're generally cash poor. Like the family that owns it, their ownership group's just not all that rich compared to other owners in the National Football League. They can't just throw a big cash infusion to go get all these deals done. So there's a lot of reasons that their organization's not great. But like, when you look at the history, they have the longest streak they've had of winning seasons in 57 seasons is 2011 and 2015 with Marvin Lewis and Andy Dalton, AJ Green. What happened though, right? They got to the wild card round each of those every 5 years. They went 0-5 and lost the wild card round every year. So you weren't going to try to
the Texans every year too.
Yeah, so you weren't going to try to extend that situation because they never really gave you anything once you got to the playoffs. The second longest streak of winning seasons in a row is the last 4 years, 2021, 2022, 2023, and 2024. And when you look at the context, it's completely different than 2011 and 2015. You have 3 of your top 4 passing seasons in the history of your franchise. You have the first Triple Crown winner in the history of your franchise. You've gone to half of your organizational AFC championships, 2 of the 4 you've ever been to, 1 of the 3 Super Bowl appearances you've ever had. So when you just look at what they've been able to accomplish in these 4 years, I don't think that throwing $124 million per year at Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, and Jamar Chase is going to yield a championship. I don't think it will. Like, if you ask me, are they going to win a championship by the time those guys are done? I'd say probably not. But that probably part of it leaves some doubt there. And when you
it's your best chance.
When you have a organization that's never been able to do anything, and you've accomplished more in 4 years than you have in a 4-year stretch ever in your franchise's history, I say give it a try. Go for it. So
you have
don't
to take
fault them at all for what they did. I fault them for the timing of it, though, for sure.
Yeah, agreed.
All right, let's go to the topic number 3. We're going to do Grizzlies talk for a few minutes. I have 2 topics I want to discuss. I want to give you guys a choose your own adventure portion of this part of the Hot 3. Do you want to end the show with the concerning talk or the good talk?
Let's end it on a good.
End it with good.
Let's end it with the good. All right. It was announced today that Gigi Jackson was being sent down to the G League. Should we be concerned?
No, I don't think so.
No, dude, he's 20. And he's coming off of a big foot injury, a broken foot in the offseason. He didn't really, and this, we know there was a bunch of staff changes. So he's never really gotten to get his footing under him. No pun intended. He's never been,
I see what you did. I see what you did there.
Been able to really find his role in a quick manner because he came in the middle of the season. And he's 20 years old, and he's got plenty of offensive ability. And I know there's a lot of people, even on the Bluff City media airwaves, and I call it the Gigi Jackson cult. I love Gigi Jackson. I think Gigi Jackson can be a very vital part. He should be. He needs to be a very vital part of the future of this team. But he cannot play a lick of defense right now.
Yeah.
It's not because of his athleticism or lack thereof or anything like that. He's plenty long. He moves side to side plenty well. He's not locked in. He's out of place. There was a clip going around on social media, and I remember watching it live against the Heat. And I know they beat the hell out of the Heat on Tony Allen jersey retirement night. But Davion Mitchell was his matchup, and Davion Mitchell gets across the half-court line, and here comes a Kello Ware screen. Davion Mitchell is 6 foot, maybe. He plays under the screen. It just allows Davion Mitchell to walk into a warm-up 3. And that's happened time and time and time again. And the one thing you'll hear from these sort of same people that, free Gigi, let Gigi be Gigi, is they'll bring up Luke Kennard as if that's a fair point. Luke Kennard's a 45% three-point shooting vet who is constantly in the right spot. The difference between him and Gigi, he's in the right spot, Gigi's out of place, but Gigi has the athleticism, Luke Kennard doesn't. If you are at least in the right spots, doing what you're being coached, I can play you. If you're not doing what you're coached, I have to give you an assignment. You have to show me that you can do what I'm coaching you. So I'm fully on board with what the Grizzlies are doing. He needs to develop, and he's 20 years old. That shouldn't be a surprise.
Yeah. Agreed.
That's all you got. That's all you got.
There's not really anything to add to that. I think Gabe's exactly right. He's still one of the youngest players in the league. He needs time to develop. It's not admitting defeat and saying that he's not ever going to be good or ever be a viable player. It's just saying he needs more seasoning and needs more time, and I don't think that's unfair.
I mean, I think it's another prime example of the Grizzlies kind of punting this season for contention, right? Like knowing that at the trade deadline you didn't consolidate some of your young wings and go get somebody, a vet that could be a playoff guy. And then obviously with this Gigi thing, you're looking more towards the future, right? Like if you needed him now, if you're trying to make a push now, you don't send Gigi down to the G League.
But he's I would push back a little bit against that. I don't think it's the same exact messaging as what we've seen. I think we can go back to those and still have problems with what they did at the trade deadline, unloading Jake LaRavia and Marcus Smart when seemingly you could have done that this offseason. I think you could talk about not playing your players night to night when you're in the midst of this log jam from 2 to 5 in the Western Conference. You have to win every game, and it doesn't feel like they have a sense of urgency. Like I agree with like your general point. I don't think that Gigi Jackson's a good example to bring that to bring that point up, because GG Jackson right now is a net negative out there on the floor because he's not playing defense and he's not doing what he's supposed to. Yeah. So in that sense, it's like, if I'm not going to be able to play you at the big club, at least I want to let you go develop with the G League. I know what time of year it is. I wish you could be a part of our playoff rotation, but if you keep doing these same things and getting hunted on the defensive end and getting cooked and being out of place, I can't play you. So in that particular situation, I don't mind what they're doing, even at this point in the season. I don't know if it's the best example to bring up what you're bringing up, but I do agree. It just feels like this franchise's sense of urgency isn't where it needs to be at all.
Or maybe they're just saying, listen, we're set for the next 2 to 3, 4, 5 years. Like, our window is wide open. I think the whole narrative about the Grizzlies' window for championships was wildly overanalyzed, right? Like the Grizzlies are set up for a long while. Like, they're gonna be fine.
Sure, but I mean, I don't mean to be the negative guy in the room, but windows close quicker than you think.
No, that's true. So. That's true. That's true. Yeah. All right, let's get to the positive. Obviously, we all are kind of got our Grizzlies fandom watching the grit and grind era, right? Like, we really fell in love with that team. And Tony Allen was the guy, right? Like, Tony Allen was the guy who kind of built that culture, all heart, grit, grind. Tony Allen is he's still been a part of the Grizzlies franchise even after his retirement. He lives here in Memphis, talks about Memphis all the time. He got his jerseys up in the rafters, boys. He is one of 3 players in the Grizzlies history to have their jersey retired, and two of them are the other grit and grind guys. When Mike Conley retires, I guarantee you that's happening for him. Those 4 guys will have their jerseys retired. Did any of y'all get to watch the actual ceremony?
I watched every second.
I did not.
Gabe, how awesome was that ceremony?
I really like, there's some things about the Grizzlies organization at times that I disagree with, how they go about certain aspects of their business. I thought that was one of the best things and best moments they have pushed out there. That was probably the best jersey retirement I've ever seen. And the reason it is because they let it be unfiltered. They let it be uncut. They let it be real. They let it be genuine.
Yeah.
And I think they understood, if we tried to, put a suit and tie in there and straighten up and be all straight-laced, and that wouldn't be genuine to what Tony Allen was to this city.
Everybody would know.
He was drunk on stage dropping F-bombs.
Well, I don't even know if he was hammered like that. I just know that whatever he was doing up there, that was from the heart, man. It was genuine as hell.
It was authentic.
And one thing I do have a lot of respect for Tony Allen for that particular night is that night was about him, right? But did you notice the last 20 minutes of his speech? It wasn't about him. He literally walked up to every single guy that came in attendance for him. Paul Pierce, Mark Gasol, Zach Randolph, Bino Udrih. You had Quincy Pondexter in there.
Quincy Pondexter.
It wasn't about him by the end of the night. Like, obviously, we know it's 9 going up in the rafters, and we're all celebrating Tony Allen, but I think he understood, like, as much as I was able to accomplish, I'm not accomplishing it without those guys. And he took the time to go around and sort of take the shine off himself on his night. I thought that was as applaudable as anything else on Saturday.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like you said, it was genuine. It was authentic. It's what people expected from him. They weren't shocked by it. And to me, it's way better than trying to button it up and make it more of a formal thing. Like, everybody in the city feels like they know Tony Allen personally. And most people do know his personality because of, what he did at his time in Memphis, and because, he's on Grind City Media with Chris Vernon all the time. Sure. So everybody gets to see his personality. So I think they did it the right way. They let him be him. They didn't
give a shit about the FCC.
No,
FCC, WMC was probably like, damn, the guy working the dump button was stressing, sweating.
Yeah,
working overtime.
Yeah, and I'll say this, because if you don't know how the FCC works, somebody has to put in a formal complaint and then provide some level of proof that this stuff was said over the air. I'm really hoping, if you were watching that, you're not. I hope you don't have any type of complaint. You know what I mean? Don't go after WMC or FanDuel Sports Network. If you didn't like it, just change the damn channel. You can't deal with that type of language. I thought it was
time to grow up. Time to grow up.
I thought it was, and I think like Tony Allen, like if we really look back at that grit and grind team, it was like, I don't think I'm overstating when I say this. It gave the city of Memphis an identity.
Oh, man.
Like legitimately gave it an identity.
Yeah.
Grind City. You know what I mean? Like that type of thing. Like, I just find it amazing how much the culture in that team went hand in hand. You don't get a lot of situations like that.
I saw a lot of NBA fans banging on the Grizzlies for retiring Tony Allen's jersey. Like, what the hell is this? Like, why? Like, what is the worst retirement? Like, worst player that's ever had their number retired? What would your rebuttal be to that?
Just learn history. You learn history. Seriously, if you don't have Tony Allen, you don't have grit and grind.
Yeah.
You literally in the very sense of what I'm saying. If you don't have Tony Allen, you never get that era of Grizzlies basketball. And you probably, I don't know, man, like at that time, there was questions about Memphis being a long-term answer for the NBA, having a franchise here. And there was nobody in the stands. I heard Tony Allen said he's like, you could hear a pencil drop in FedEx Forum. And, that iteration of the Grizzlies brought in so much fandom that you still see now. Like the players on the team now don't quite understand I mean, they probably do. I hope some of them understand it because I think it's important. But the foundation that was laid by those guys, man, you don't get where we're at today with this fan base without them. You don't even get close.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right, boys. Well, let's wrap it up. We appreciate you guys for joining us. If you are watching on YouTube, you can like, subscribe, and comment there. If you are listening via podcast, whether that's on Apple or Spotify or any other platform, you can do the same things there. You can also go to bluffcitymedia.co, check out all the articles, podcasts, and videos on the site. Once again, we appreciate you guys for joining us, and we will see you back here next week.
Thank you for listening to On the Bluff. If you enjoyed this episode, leave a rating and a review wherever you download your podcasts. Also, like and subscribe to Bluff City Media's YouTube page. Head over to www.bluffcitymedia.co for comprehensive coverage of Memphis sports and how you can become an insider.